artist, have you ever been frustrated because you felt like you put out an amazing song? People were really going to dig this one, and you put it out there, and it just doesn't feel like it's getting the recognition that it deserves? See, that mindset is something that I've experienced and every kind of artist has experienced. But I want to tell you that that way of thinking could actually lead to total failure in your music business. And I want to help you avoid that. In today's video, I want to show you how to flip the script and to realize why talent alone is not enough for you to be successful and what to do about it. What are the things that you do need to know to be successful? That's what we're going to be breaking down in today's video, so stick around. So the first thing that we need to understand is, why is talent alone not enough? It would make sense that if I was trying to be a good chef, if I was the most talented chef, then I would be the world's most renowned chef, right? That's sort of a logical conclusion to the person who's trying to master being good at being a chef or being a musician, right? We think if we get better at our music, then people are just going to flock to us because we've created something. Now, this is based off of the fallacy, if it's from this movie called Field of Dreams, where if you build it, they will come, right? Just build something amazing and then everyone will come to it. That's such a bad piece of advice because it ignores a few things that we're going to talk about in this video, but really the thing that's most pernicious, the worst thing about this, is that the idea that talent is the reason you're going to be successful actually breeds entitlement. Let me explain that, because some people I know are going to race to the comments to tell me where I'm wrong, but here's what we need to understand about talent. Talent can start to inflate our ego a little bit. Like, I understand this firsthand because once I started working on my guitar playing enough, I got to the point where I could start to play some pretty ripping solos, and it was easy for me to start falling into these ego traps of, man, what I'm putting out is so good, because I'm comparing it to everyone around me. And at the time, I didn't know anybody that was better than me. That's a bad sign, by the way. And so I was kind of filling my ego with how good I was at guitar. And yeah, 8 times out of 10, the people that would play in sort of competition with me wouldn't be at my skill level. And so that would inflate my ego. But here's the thing. None of that equates to writing songs that people care about. That's just the truth. So I had to sit there and reshape my mind a little bit, like, okay, becoming the best guitar player in the world is not going to be achievable, because then I started to meet some people who were way further along than me. You know, not just heroes that I looked up to, but people who were like my age or younger who were just way further along than me. And so it was kind of like, okay, humbled, immediately get humbled. But then I started focusing on another skill that I thought, this is the skill I need to focus on. So I focused on songwriting. And as I started to write better and better songs, I thought, this is how I'm going to be successful. And one time I went to a concert where the band Nothing More was playing. This was very early, 2014. And I go up to the singer after the show. He's hanging out by the merch table. And I go, what's your one piece of advice for someone who's trying to do what you do? And he said, if you build it, they will come. He kind of just threw that out there. I put him on the spot, so I don't blame him for giving that advice, because I wouldn't know what to say if I just came off a set and someone just came up and dropped that bombshell of a question on me. But here's the thing. I started to think that the reason people are successful is because they write great songs. But I want you to ask yourself a question. Is there a reason that McDonald's is the most popular burger chain in the world, even though it's not the best burger in the world? I want you to think about that for a second. McDonald's is not the most talented at making burgers. That's not what has allowed McDonald's, for instance, to be so prolific and everywhere. What's allowed them to do that is that they have different skill sets. Because here's the thing. We're comparing ourselves to artists who have, let's say, good songs. And we think, oh, okay, the reason they're successful is good songs. Here's the thing. You're not going to have a fan base if you don't have songs that people connect to. So what objectively means a good song is really hard to determine. And if you had to ask me and push my, you had to twist my arm about it, what objectively makes a good song? I would say it's connection. If you're able to connect with the listener and communicate some kind of message, and they're actually being attentive and listening, that's a good song. So for some people, listening to metal is just agonizing. They can't do it. But for other people, listening to country or smooth jazz is agonizing. So what's good is really the ability to capture attention for longer durations of time and to have things that are, it's kind of like storytelling. You have to be able to be a good storyteller. Songwriting and storytelling are only different in the sense that storytelling, you could say, is just verbal or written down, where music is verbal and there's accompaniment, right? There's sonic accompaniment to it. So what am I going into this for? The reason is we compare ourselves to artists who have great songs, right? But we don't compare ourselves to the people who are not talented in our eye, right? I was saying everyone thinks, what's a good song, right? Look at people who have been able to get masses of attention, millions and millions of people listen to their songs, but you listen to the song itself, and objectively to you, you're like, I don't even understand how that's talented. Like, for example, a genre that really gets hate for this particular thing is mumble rap, right? People tend to view mumble rappers as less talented because there's no diction in their words. A lot of times, like, it sounds very slurred, and so people attack like, they're not even trying, it's not even talented. Now, I'm not throwing a judgment either way, but perceptually, we can look and see there's millions of people that listen to those type of rappers. So we're comparing ourselves, but we're comparing ourselves to people in a weird kind of unidimensional way. Where that brings me to my second point. Talent is not unidimensional. It's not just, oh, talent means you're good at writing songs. Because if that were the case, all the people would be only listening to people who had the best songs, and it would be a race to who could write the best possible songs. However, this is an unfortunate pill that no one really likes to talk about, that you kind of have to swallow if you're going to be in this business, is it's not always the most talented musicians that are the most popular. Like, for example, sometimes you have a bit of both. Sometimes you have Michael Jackson, who is insanely talented, borderline savant level talented, and also one of the world's biggest pop stars. But then you'll have people, like, what's his, I don't even know his real name, but it's like Tekashi 6ix9ine or something like that. The guy with all the tattoos on his face and the rainbow hair. I don't even know his real name. But what I do know is I know of him. Even though that's like the opposite of my world. I'm in the rock and metal world, right? So that's like the opposite of my world. But how do I know about this dude? Well, I know about this dude because of his marketing and the other skill sets that he provides. Now, here's the thing. People will talk down on that. People will say, oh, that's just, creating a, you're trying to be a clown and you're creating a spectacle to try and get attention. You're not actually focusing on the music. And I'm like, I agree. From an artist perspective, I totally agree. But when we look at it from a marketing perspective, we have to realize what's happening in front of our eyes, which is that people are being attracted to something that's less quality, but they choose to listen to it over something that's more quality. Why would they do that? Just like we think earlier, why would someone go buy the McDonald's cheeseburger when they could buy a mom and pop cheeseburger for the same price, if not cheaper nowadays? It's higher quality. Why would they do that? It's all about branding and association, which falls under marketing, okay? So what we have to understand is that talent is not just your ability to perform your instrument, whether that's vocals, piano, guitar, drums. Talent is not just about your ability to perform your instrument. It's not just about your ability to write good songs with your ability to perform the instrument, but it's also about your ability to get yourself seen. That's what we need to understand when it comes to talent, is that talent is not just write better songs, and that's what defines talent. Sure, in one unidimensional view, that's what talent can be. But when we look at artists who are successful, that doesn't always seem to be perfectly matched. It doesn't seem to be perfectly correlated, that just because you're talented, that you're famous. Now, granted, there are tons of people who are like insanely talented and famous, like I mentioned with Michael Jackson. Think of someone like Ariana Grande. I don't particularly like her music, but you can tell from a vocal perspective, she has the ability to do a lot of different things. And she's got her marketing set up to where she's found her niche, she's found her audience. And think about it, those two core things of being able to write good songs. Like I'm saying, I don't want anybody to take away from this video that I think songwriting is not important, right? What I'm trying to say is that's not the full picture of the business, and that's not even the full picture of how you get success in this business. Like, it's the foundation for sure, but we're not a songwriting channel. You know, if you want to learn about songwriting, go follow my friend Connor Frost. He's got great songwriting content, and he'll talk to you about all the different ways of writing songs. What I'm talking about is the business. That's what we talk about here. So if anybody's getting the wrong impression, I want you to understand that I'm not discounting songwriting. You have to obviously be good at writing songs and always be continually getting better at writing songs and performing your instrument. But don't think that that alone is what's going to save you or turn the ship in the other direction. If you've been driving, down the music business road in your car and you feel like you're driving in the middle of nowhere and you're getting nowhere, well, sometimes writing a song is not the thing that's going to fix that for you most of the time. What's usually going to fix this is figuring out the different talents that are required to get success. Another talent that we haven't talked about is networking, right? Being social and being able to find opportunities of networking. You'll notice a lot of the people who know a lot of people are constantly in the scene. They're at shows all the time. They're doing things where there's like big events. They're playing and they're in the area a lot. And so you have to look at like, okay, what does talent mean? And how have I been making it just mean this when I really need to make it apply to a few other things? Because here's the thing, you have the ability. You learned how to become a musician. That's difficult, right? I've taught guitar and drums and bass. Like I know how difficult it is for people to learn this stuff. But I also know people can learn this stuff. And if they can learn something as complicated and tricky to the brain as performing an instrument, then I fully believe that you can learn a few frameworks in marketing, a few frameworks in negotiation, a few frameworks in networking, a few frameworks in sales to make you better in all those different arenas. I fully believe that if you're competent enough to be a musician, you're competent enough to do these other things. Because people think like, oh, the people that make all the money have to be like super, super, super smart. I'm like, sure, at the 0.01% level, sure. But the level that you and I would need to get to be successful, which for most people, if you were honest with yourself, if you were making enough money to pay all your bills with your music and then a little bit more to have some fun with, most people would be happy to live their entire lives with that kind of setup. It doesn't always mean millions and millions of dollars, right? But we can look at the people who have gotten millions and millions and millions of dollars from their music business and go, what are they doing? What are the different talents they have that I haven't even been focusing on? Because what you focus on is like obviously what you're focusing on. You can't focus on everything at once. So if you're focusing on the quality of these people's songs, then you're going to look at them with contempt and be like, these hacks, they're not even really that talented and everyone eats it up because it's just, cheap McDonald's music, right? You hear this all the time. To me, that's an elitist perspective because we're viewing it from the perspective of the artist and not the perspective of the audience. We need to view things from the perspective of the audience. What is attracting masses of people to something that I don't view as very good? There's probably something to learn from that. There's probably a strategy that I could learn from that I don't have to implement the same way. In fact, they may be taking a framework that could be used in a good way and just using it in a bad way. But we're not ever going to be able to notice these things if we're not focusing on it. Because talent means good songs, which is important, but it's not the full picture of trying to figure out what it means to be successful. So you'll hear me from time to time bring up Taylor Swift. And everyone's like, oh, but it's not Taylor Swift, it's her team. I'm like, fine, then Taylor's team. Look at what they do to get millions of people to go to that brand and be willing to spend money with that brand and like build this borderline, cult-like community. Not saying you got to do it that intense, but you know what I'm saying? You want to build a community of people that rally around your music. In my experience, all the biggest bands have a community. There's Avenged Sevenfold has the Deathbat Club. Disturbed calls their fans the Disturbed Ones. Shinedown has something called the Shinedown Nation. Same with Alter Bridge. They have something called the Alter Bridge Nation. There's different communities that you want to have. Like, I remember one time I got the ability to pass out CDs for Chevelle at their gig, and it was called the Brady Theater in Tulsa, because I was just on their list and happened to be in the area, and I'd made enough purchases through, I think, their online store that they were like, hey, would you be willing to do this? We'll let you meet the band after the show. And we're like, yeah, of course. But that's what they did. They built this community, and now I'm like, I'm going to be a Chevelle fan forever. Can you imagine a band treating you that well, that like you just happened to be on their list and they offered you a free VIP upgrade for doing a little bit of labor for them, which was just passing out CDs? So cool. So cool. Anyway, building a community, right? That's something that these big artists have figured out how to do. Sometimes they brand the community. Sometimes the community is sort of focused on the artist itself. Like for Taylor Swift, I don't know because I'm not in the universe. She calls them Swifties, right? Well, that's tied to her, right? For instance, Avenged Sevenfold, the Death Bat Club, that's dissociated from the individual members in its name, where Swifties is directly tied to Taylor as a person. So you can see the two different angles that you can take there, where there's a branded image, the Death Bat, which is just a skull with bat wings for Avenged Sevenfold. That's like their moniker, their logo, and their symbol that their community rallies around and wears as a symbol of, I'm in the club, right? And on the other side of it, Taylor Swift has Swifties, where everything's more identified to her as a person. They're wearing Taylor's face on their shirts and all this kind of different stuff. So look at those different talents. Nobody ever looks at those talents. It's like, wow, they were able to create thriving communities. Or the talent of how do they brand themselves in a way that just fully establishes who they are. And like every album, usually pop stars are really good at this. Every album has a theme. And so the wardrobe that they wear, the songs, the videos, the promo, everything has a pretty similar theme to whatever the release is, right? So we can learn from that. Like, oh, having themed, branding for each promo is a valuable skill. Like I learned that a long time ago. And so my band, we have these two R's that face each other in a particular font. And that's sort of been our logo that we built over the years. And what happens is every new album cycle, we put those R's in new situations. We put the R's in, basically we take the album cover and we make it to where there's no text on it, and we throw our double R's in there and make that the profile image. So every time there's a new release, you can kind of tell if you just look at the thumbnail. You may have noticed a lot of different artists doing that, right? So that's a way to keep the branding consistent, but it's also being thematically changed based on your releases. All this stuff is different skills that most artists just haven't taken the time to master themselves, right? And so my third and kind of final point here is we need to become curious about how other people are becoming successful outside of the domain of their songwriting. And once we start to study those aspects, we're really going to start to see results. Now, what are those different things? I've mentioned a couple of them, but I really think it all boils down to 3 core skills that every single one of you would greatly benefit from if you focused on nothing but these 3 things, okay? So the first thing, just so you know where I stand on this, excuse me, music talent. So your music talent, which is for your songwriting, okay? So you have to constantly be writing songs. You have to be constantly writing good songs. So you have to be getting better. So music talent is the first talent that you need to focus on, okay? What's the second talent? The second talent is marketing talent. This is how you get attention. So by studying marketing, specifically what you are studying is how do I get myself in front of the right people, first and foremost? How do I get in front of the people that I know will most easily be receptive to my message? Okay? Secondly, once you're in front of them, you have to think, how am I going to create the brand associations in their mind so that when they see me or they see my logo or my symbol, they have certain emotions they go to. They have certain feelings they think of. And those things we want to tie directly into our brand, who we are as a musician. Like, for example, if your kind of mission or the songs that you write are about enlightenment and like deeper consciousness and all that kind of new age thinking, then you would want people to go to your content, go to your profile, and get this feeling in their head of like, wow, I just feel so enlightened whenever I see these videos. I don't know what it is. So you're reverse engineering the associations they need to have for them to be sucked into your brand and actually start to listen to your music on a regular basis, because it's not just like, oh, I heard that cool song, scroll. It's like, I heard that cool song, but yeah, I really like that, and the image on that's perfect. Who is this? Once that curiosity has been opened, now we've got a shot at creating a real fan here. They're not just, like, oh, cool song, scroll. People do that all the time. Oh, that's a cool video, scroll. It's not that important to them. But if we can get them to go, who is this? That comes from marketing, right? The music talent is like, that's a good song. The marketing talent is, who is this person? And then the final talent is the money talent, the sales talent, how you actually create revenue in a music business. So think about that. These sort of compound on each other. You got the music talent to make them go, that's a great song. You've got the marketing talent to make them go, who is this? I need to go check them out. And then you have the money talent to be able to take that attention and that curiosity about you and turn it into action that drives them further down our funnel. So what is the funnel? Everyone's funnel is going to look a little bit different, but fundamentally it goes from content, they're aware of us, who is this person? And then they move down into, let's say, an email list. So we can start reaching out to them one-on-one. It's not directly one-on-one. You use an email service provider like MailChimp or Drip or ActiveCampaign, and you start to communicate with them without any algorithm in between so that you can start to sell things. And that right there is sort of, you master those three things, you will start to build a more sustainable music business. It's just inevitable at this point. If you master the skill of writing good songs, capturing attention for that music, and then monetizing it, that is the core of a business right there. So I hope you now understand why talent alone, and by talent I mean music talent, is not enough, right? We need to figure out what these other artists are doing so that we can study what kind of marketing are they doing? How are they doing that? How are they setting that up? How are they selling things? What kind of offers do they do? What kind of things do they do around the holidays? What kind of emails do they send? Now we're starting to think about sales stuff. You master those two other sides of your business, I guarantee you're going to start to see results in your own music business for not only the next few weeks, but for 2025 coming up here in a few months. So I'm excited for everyone out there to hit the ground running with this new year with confidence and trajectory, knowing where they're trying to go in their music business. So if you've gotten a lot of value from this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell and check out some of our other videos where we break down more myths about the music business. We break down more strategies, more philosophies about the music business, all that kind of good stuff, So make sure to check that out. If you'd like some one-on-one help implementing the things that we've been talking about here today, there's a link in the description where you can apply for a one-on-one strategy call. So click that link if that's something that you feel you need help with in your music business. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.